Welcome to Accent on Art. I'm Chris Madison, and our guest artist today is Stephen Gjertson, and he really is a timeless treasure in himself. So welcome, Stephen Gjertson. What a joy to meet you, and your lovely wife, Patricia Gjertson. And I think you two look beautiful together. You should do a painting of the two of you together, really, because you're so handsome in different ways. Well, tell me about yourselves. You are really considered a classical realist. And what does that mean exactly?
Classical realism was a term that was coined by the man that I studied with, Richard Lack, just as a way of differentiating the kind of realism that we do from all the other realisms that are out there. And it means basically that classical in the sense that we're after things that are timeless, design, order, beauty, and realistic in the sense that we work from life and we don't work from photographs or from our imagination. We don't make up the things that we paint.
So you depend on nature largely.
Yeah, I was trained as an impressionist, and by impressionist I mean you're working from life with an eye towards reproducing on the canvas what you see in front of you. So you're working from nature. You're not putting down what you think is there, what you think ought to be there. You're putting down what you actually see.
What you see. Are you influenced by the light then? Say like Monet was influenced by the light. Are you influenced by the light of the day or the seasons of the year?
Certainly. Certainly. I think any artist who is visual in the sense that I am, who's inspired by the things that he sees, looks at the things that he sees and gets inspired by those things. You know, I'm driving in the car and I see the clouds, and I look out and I see the way the light flows over a tree, or the pattern that trees make against the sky, or whatever those things are. They are pictorial things to me, because I think in pictorial terms. I think, what would that look like within the frames of a picture? So I'm looking with squinted eyes, and I'm always looking for interesting effects. So in that sense, I'm inspired by light.
And how does your wife inspire you?
Her beauty. When I first met her, one of the things I think that she says ingratiated me to her was commenting on how beautiful her flesh tones were. I looked at her skin, I thought, my goodness, look at that complexion. It's peachy. It's so light and creamy. That inspired me as an artist, and I wanted to paint her, and of course I painted her over and over again through the years.
Well, she's a wonderful subject in many ways.
Yeah, and she holds still too.
She holds still. Well, she's an utterly charming person. How does it feel to be the father of 3 children?
Four.
How's that? Four, excuse me. My goodness. How does that affect you as an artist, being a father of 4 children?
Well, as an artist, I mean, I'm just a father, and then I'm a father who happens to be an artist. For the particular vocation, I see in my children subject matter. You know, I watch what they do, and they inspire me, if you want to use that word, to paint pictures. I see them doing things, and I say, that's real interesting. That's something that I could paint an interesting picture of. And of course, they've all posed for paintings, and it's a way for them to earn a little bit of money. I pay them for posing. So their thing is, we're models.
Oh,
that's
great.
what they say. We're daddy's models.
Well, you're model parents too, I believe.
Well, I don't know about that.
Well, tell me, how did you get your start in art? I understand your mother was quite talented.
She was. My mother was a very talented musician, and she kept nice things around the home. She liked beautiful things. In fact, her epitaph is, she saw beauty everywhere, and she really did, and our home was very beautiful. Very beautiful things in the home. She had a nice collection of illustrated books. And when I was very young, I used to read these illustrated books, the Scribner's Classics, illustrated by N.C. Wyeth. Those pictures made a big impression on me. I read 2 books by Lloyd C. Douglas, The Big Fisherman and The Robe, both illustrated by Dean Cornwell. And I found myself looking at the pictures a lot more than I was reading the books.
Well, did you copy any artist?
Oh, sure, I copied those things. Yeah.
Didn't you, was it Remington you copied?
Frederick Remington, sure. I was always interested in history as a boy, cowboys. You know, what boy isn't interested in cowboys? And of course, you look through history books to find out about them, and what you end up with is you see pictures by artists on that subject. So I saw pictures by Charles Schrabovel, Frederick Remington that you mentioned, and I was interested in the art because I was pictorially oriented. So I used to copy their pictures over and over and over again.
And others, any others? You learn from copying in a sense, don't you? In a sense?
Well, once you get into formal training, copying, of course, is a way to learn.
But you studied at the University of Minnesota?
I went to the University of Minnesota for 3 years.
3 years.
And I didn't really take too much art there. I majored, if you will, in art history and biology, of all things. And then I went to art school for a year, and then heard about Richard Lack. And
now, Richard Lack was really the founder of the Atelier.
Right, he founded
Atelier Lack in Minneapolis. But you grew up in Minneapolis, didn't you?
Yes, I was born here and raised here.
You were born right in Minneapolis.
We
That
both
makes you very
graduated
special
from
to
the
us.
same high school.
From where?
We both graduated from Roosevelt High School.
Roosevelt High School.
Yeah.
Many fine people come from there.
Yes.
Tell me, so how, you became associated with Richard Lack and the Atelier Lack.
Right, I was one of his first formally organized groups of students. There were only 7 of us. The Atelier Lack is a studio school. I'll just explain it a little bit. Atelier is a French word that means studio, so it's functioning slightly after the apprenticeship system, where a small group of people study with the trained painter under semi-formal conditions, I would say. He comes in a couple days a week and critiques us, gives us the general direction in which to go, and then comes and critiques
But
our
Richard
work.
Lack studied with some very fine artists himself. Who were they?
His teacher was a man named R.H. Ives Gamble. Who was from Boston, who in turn had studied with a Boston artist named William Paxton, who in turn had studied in Europe in the 1880s with Jean-Léon Gérôme, who was probably one of the most influential French teachers in the latter half of the 19th century.
It's spelled G-E-R-O-M-E.
O-M-E, Gérôme.
Jerome.
Jerome.
But it's more like the accent is on the G-E-R, Jerome.
Jerome, yeah.
So Richard Lack really came with a great background, and so he was able to guide you all in classical realism as compared to Impressionism or some of the, we don't get into abstract art here, no, no, no.
I was never interested in abstract art, which is, of course, what drew me to Richard Lack. He was teaching the thing that I had wanted to do ever since I was a young boy.
We're running out of time.
And just to getting into Impressionism a little bit here, the training that I received at Atelier Lack was essentially Impressionist training. By that I mean we were trained to reproduce what we saw. It was a very visual thing. We were training our eye to see. We weren't trained in a style. We weren't trained in a method, a way of painting. We were trained in a way of seeing, and then we could take that education and do what we want with it. So the people who study there end up painting in many different styles and methods.
Well, Stephen Gjertson, I consider you a timeless treasure right now. I think your work is absolutely magnificent.
Thank you.
I don't think enough people know of the quality, the fine quality, know about you and the fine quality of your work. And if I can do anything to make you famous, I will do it. That's how much I think of your art. Well, let's start in with a painting you did. You painted Morning Cliffs. And let's talk about Morning Cliffs, your first painting.
Okay, Morning Cliffs is an example of an Impressionist painting or a plein air painting, which means it was painted on the spot.
You're out.
To paint a picture like that, it's like the Impressionists. You are inspired by a particular location. I've gone up to the North Shore for the last 12 or 13 years. We have a little cabin that we stay at there, and I search out locations that appeal to me and specific times of day that appeal to me. And I go out on location, take my easel out there and my paint box, and I set up, and I work for whatever length of time that effect that I'm after is there. This particular painting was in the morning. It's on the end of Shovel Point, which is in Tetagouche State Park on the North Shore. And I wanted a very bright, sunlit morning with those cliffs in the sunlight. And
That's south of Grand Marais, isn't it?
quite a bit south of
Quite a
Grand
bit.
Marais, yes.
Okay, and tell us, well, all right, Now let's talk about the next one, Reflections.
Reflections is a portrait of my oldest daughter, Stephanie. It was done for
Her name is, your eldest daughter is Stephanie. How many, you have two daughters?
Two daughters, Stephanie and Elizabeth, one on each end.
Okay.
An older one and a younger
All
one.
right, and her name is Stephanie.
Stephanie.
And this is a painting of reflections.
It's
This
called, oops, I'm sorry.
Reflections of your daughter?
Well, it's a play on words. It's reflections. It's an introspective portrait of her. It's a coming-of-age portrait. From the symbolic aspect, it's someone looking in the mirror wondering who they are. They're in the process of turning from a little girl into a young woman. And the butterfly that's on the mirror is a symbol of resurrection, of change. And that's why I put that in there. It's her metamorphosing, so to speak, into a
Is that
a
in
young
the
woman.
butterfly of the Bible?
It's just a fairly conventional symbol for
I see.
resurrection because of the change.
I see, but it's just so beautifully done. It's so exquisite.
I wanted to paint her in an elegant way as coming of age. It was painted for her 16th birthday, slightly influenced by some of the portraits of Ang. You know, I was thinking of him in the back of my mind, and then I wanted to surround her with those things that she found meaningful and that I thought represented her. You know, the pictures on the mirror.
Yes, I see.
That's pictures of her friends and her makeup. That's very important to her. She spends a lot of time in front of the mirror, which is
Well, of
very,
course.
very
Of
significant.
course. At the age of 16, of course you would.
That's right.
I think women at all ages look in the mirror and see how we can improve.
And never grow out of that.
Well, let's look at your next one, Stephen Gjertson. This one is called Mother's Table. Where is that?
Mother's Table is a still life that I did in memory of my mother who passed away 2 years ago. The table belonged to my mother. That's why I called it Mother's Table.
I see.
Also, if you want to get into symbols, I think in terms of symbols, and I compose sometimes consciously, sometimes unconsciously in terms of symbols. That she was a fine Christian woman. She died. I believe that she went to heaven. Daisies are a symbol of innocence. That's why I put the daisies there. White, of course, is the centerpiece of the daisies. That's a symbol of her righteousness. And apples have been a symbol of Christ throughout the years. Christ symbolic of the new Adam. And so I've included both red apples and yellow apples, yellow for glory, red for the blood of Christ, and then I cut the apple on the right-hand side, which is a symbol of Christ as being the sacrifice for sin. So anyone looking at that picture wouldn't get that out of it. That's just what I thought of it. To anyone looking at it, it's just a still life with some apples and some flowers.
The fact that there are a few stems out of the daisy, is that symbolic of anything?
No, that's just an artistic. We do that for artistic reasons.
Did you have any problem in keeping the flowers fresh as you paint from them from day to day?
I paint either flower by flower or group of flowers to group of flowers. I don't like to change the flowers. I don't have to buy more flowers because I'm kind of a cheapskate. So of course daisies last a long time.
Besides, you might not get the same flower.
No. You pick them for their harmony and their size.
It's certainly. Well, Stephen Gjertson, let us look at the next painting, which is on Rachel from the Bible. Let us talk about that one.
Yeah, this is an example of another type of painting. Richard Lack and some of the Boston painters use the term imaginative painting, which is really an updating of the old term historical painting or mythological painting.
Yes.
And this is a painting that I did, just a very personal painting to me, a symbolic painting that deals with the grief of women who have had abortion. And abortion, I have some friends who had abortions, and their feelings when I asked them about it were feelings of grief, and I wanted to express that from my own artistic point of view. And I chose Rachel from the Bible because she's a symbol of women who've lost their children. And,
Well, in one way or another.
in one way or another, yes.
And in this case, Rachel's grieving, and we're showing, what would you say those are, cedars in the background?
You know, I didn't pick any specific type of tree.
I see.
I did them for artistic reasons for the line.
I see.
But it's a symbolic picture, and the things that I put in there, aside from the emotional aspect, trying to get across the emotion of grief, I put the elements in there, and I chose them for their symbolic purpose.
Oh, who did you get as your model?
My wife.
Oh,
Except for the black woman. she
Patricia,
posed for
you
all of
are a
them.
wonderful model. And the bird?
The bird I just drew myself.
And what is the symbolism of the bird?
A black bird is an ancient symbol of sin.
Of
So
sin.
that's a symbol of sin. And it's the bird is sitting on a draped, dead body of a baby.
Oh, really?
Kind of a morbid subject, but just
What?
the idea that they didn't.
But it looks like it's on a...
It's on a mausoleum, a clinic-turned mausoleum.
I see.
And it's symbolic to me that the bird has gone to the bathroom on the baby, kind of that the baby was not worth anything.
But if somebody wanted to look at it from another way, you can say, looking at from the history of the Rachel in the Old Testament, you can say this is a symbol of Rachel
Yes.
and her grief. And there's a blackbird looking on who's expressing her sorrow,
Yes,
too.
absolutely. Pictures like this can be read on many different levels,
Yes,
and
of
a
course.
person gets out of it what they bring to it
Yes,
in
certainly.
some respects.
All right, and now we're ready for the next one. Thoughts of Youth. And where's that? Are we ready to show that one?
Thoughts of Youth is a painting that I did a couple summers ago, and it was inspired by a line of poetry from a poem by a Longfellow called The Thoughts of Youth.
Oh.
And the poem itself deals with a man in later age reminiscing or looking down, I guess, on his hometown, which was a harbor town, and thinking about his youth. And the line from the poem is, and the thoughts of youth are long, long thoughts. And I take that to mean that it's a long time ago, that he's thinking of things in his youth, and he's now in his old age or middle age, and to think back that far is a long, long time.
But you have a little boy there.
That's my son. And I used to do, you know, I'm middle-aged, I guess I should put it that way.
Well, you
and
look
when
like
I
a
look
young
back
man
at
to
my
me.
youth, they're getting to be longer and longer thoughts.
Now, how did you get that particular pose?
Well, artists get their inspiration from a lot of different sources. Like
Yes.
I said, it was the poem, but I used to do this when I was a child. I used to go down to the rocks at the North Shore where we went every summer, and I'd sit there and I would just look at the lake, and the lake was so fascinating to me. It was so beautiful.
Lake Superior.
Yeah, and I saw my son doing that one night, and I thought, he's doing exactly what I did when I was a young boy.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's what I want to paint. I want to paint him doing what I did, and then it was sort of.
In this case, he's not reminiscing. He is observing.
He's observing.
Yeah,
I'm reminiscing.
he's having
He's
thoughts.
observing.
He's having thoughts as a young man. Isn't there a little boat there? Wasn't there a boat in
It's an
a
island.
ship?
It's an island.
Oh, it's an island.
With the moon.
Which island is that?
It's just, I made it up.
Oh, I thought that was,
Uh-oh,
I
I
recognized that. Uh-oh. Let's go back to that one particular painting of Thoughts of Youth. Let's look at that again. Can we look back at that again? No? Yes?
Camera one, or camera back to the...
Okay. Now, how did you get those very strong feeling of color on the top, but how did you get that ruggedness in the rocks?
Well, that's a matter of being trained as an impressionist. Like I said, I go out and I paint these things on the spot. I set my son up on that rock, and I set my easel up in front of the rock, and...
How far away were you? About 10 feet?
Yes, about that far.
And tell me,
I was trying to capture the way it looked to me. In that sense, it's an impressionist picture. I'm trying for the look of nature, the color of nature, and the effect of nature.
Now, in the background, there's almost a pale pink coral glow.
Right. Now, that's something that doesn't come around every night. You know, someone who's an impressionist, he grabs things on the run that he enjoys and that he likes, and that happened one night, so I put that down.
Oh, okay.
And some other nights, it doesn't come around. That effect isn't there.
How far up were you? How far up are these rocks from the ground?
He's probably sitting about 15 feet above the
15
water.
above the water.
Right.
So how do you scramble up there for 15 feet?
He goes around to the right.
Oh, there is a
There's a
little path
Yes.
going up there.
Yeah.
So he looks like he's in a sense of meditation, and that he almost looks very attentive, like he's somebody's watching him. His parents are watching him.
Painting him.
Painting
Well,
him.
an artist is a director, so
Oh, that's true.
you have a model. He's like the actor, and
That's true.
you tell him what to do. Okay, Andrew, go up there and sit there. And look
What's his
this way,
name?
you know.
What's his
Andrew.
name? Andrew?
Right.
Andrew. Okay.
So they don't get paid unless they take the direction.
Oh, okay. And of course, you had to paint this at a certain season of the year.
Yes.
At a certain time of, and when you came back, it had to be the same kind of lighting.
Every night we went out there at the same time.
Same
we spent
time?
about an hour there.
So this went on over a period of.
It went over a period of 2 years. I usually start my
2
landscapes
years.
one summer and then I finish them the next summer.
Oh, I see.
So I would guess total
An hour
painting
at a time.
An hour at a time, probably 3 or 4 weeks on each picture.
Did you
A
ask your
picture like
son
this.
what was he thinking about when he was up there? No.
Well, I do, but I think the answer he'd give is when is this going to be over? When can I go back to the cabin and have something to
Okay.
eat?
All right. Let's talk about the Late Show. Okay.
The Late Show?
The Late Show.
The Late Show is one of my latest figure paintings.
Okay.
It's a
Tell us-
picture of my 3 youngest children, inspired by something they do all the time, something most modern children do most of the time, that's watch television.
Yes.
And
Actually, don't you think that modern children know much more about life in the world today than people say of my age or your age or anybody's age? Anybody's age.
You can say, unfortunately or not, that they
pick up a
mature
lot of
at
stuff
a
they
younger
wish.
age.
Yes, they mature at a younger age, but still, they don't come in as naive as say other people did at say the age of 16. Well, a lot of younger people at the age of 16 were pretty naive.
Yes, compared to children today, that's true. The idea in this picture, though, was the mesmerizing effect of television.
It's so mesmerizing that they fell asleep.
That's typical of my children, though.
I see.
Andrew, the one on the right, is asleep. He always goes to sleep before anyone else.
This is
Elizabeth tries to
Andrew.
stay
This
up.
is the same one
Yep, same
who
one.
was in the previous shot.
He's on the right.
And then who's the central one?
The center one is Philip. He's
Philip.
our middle boy, the oldest boy.
And he's got his hand on the
Power.
power.
He's got the power.
Is he the power?
He's got the remote control.
And you're.
And his idea is to stay awake and just focus on the television. That's what he's done. I've made him just staring at that thing absolutely intently. And Elizabeth is trying to do that, but she can't quite stay awake, which is kind of the way she is. She tries
This
to
is
compete
Elizabeth.
with him. Yes.
Well,
but
I see
she
the
just goes
different
out.
colors you have in their skin. Elizabeth has quite a pale skin, more like your wife's skin.
Yeah.
And then also his skin is more pink.
Well, it was done during the summer, so the boys go outside, Philip especially, and I tried to get Andrew not to go outside because I wanted his skin to stay white.
And
Elizabeth,
Andrew's?
That's Andrew on the right.
Yes.
Yeah, I wanted his skin to stay white, and I kept saying, wear long sleeve shirts.
Oh.
And then Elizabeth's skin is very much, like you say, like my wife's, and I wanted to capture that, so I made sure she didn't go out in the sun until after the painting was finished.
I see. So when was this taken?
The painting?
Yes. When was this painting
I
done?
did it last summer.
Last summer.
1993.
So, 1993, so you're still working on, you were working on it this summer?
Last summer.
Wait, you finished it this last summer?
Right. Yeah, it took roughly 2.5 to 3 months to
You've been represented by some different art galleries. What are some of the names of them?
I guess I won't tell that right now because I'm not associated with art galleries right now.
No?
I'm being represented by an artist representative, LeSueur Art Agency.
What is the name?
LeSueur Art Agency.
LeSueur?
LeSueur. Annette LeSueur.
S-O-E-U-R?
She's the same woman who wrote the book on me, Annette LeSueur.
She wrote a book by Annette LeSueur, and this is called, here.
Timeless Treasure.
Timeless, you are timeless treasure. I really do believe that. Stephen Gjertson, I think you are so special, and I don't know whether everybody can see this particular painting in here. What is the story of this one right here?
That's the story of my youngest, that's a painting of my youngest son, Andrew.
Andrew.
The painting is called Heroes of the West. And I had many heroes of the West when I was a child. I used to read about them. And Andrew had a habit of reading to his stuffed animals, and I saw him do
He'd
that one
read
day.
to a stuffed animal.
Yeah, but he'd make it up because he didn't know how to read.
Yes.
He'd just open a book and start
Oh,
telling the
how
story.
delightful.
So I tried to put
Well,
that.
somebody wanted to contact you. How would they do that?
They would call me at home. They can find my name in the phone book.
Oh, under Gjertson. Gjertson, and the first name is Stephen, Stephen.
That's right.
Well, I want to thank you, Patricia. We've hardly had a word out of you, but I want to say that we haven't really heard of much of your life as the wife of an artist, but I'm sure that your husband, Stephen, thinks so much of you, and I think you've been so supportive. I think that's just wonderful that you can have, be so supportive and so understanding of what he's trying to accomplish, and your children have been so caring. I think that's just a wonderful asset for an artist, and one for you too.
It's essential for an artist to have that kind of support.
Oh, absolutely.
Without support of his wife and family, it's just incredibly difficult.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I want to congratulate you both. And Stephen Gjertson, I want you to know, can be in the Minneapolis phone book if you want to contact him. I want to thank you, Stephen Gjertson,
You're very
for your
welcome.
graciousness in being here today on Accent on Art.
Thank
And
you.
Patricia Gjertson, I want to thank you. You're both wonderful people, and I really predict you're really going to have a great future ahead.
Thank
because
you.
I think you're just getting started.
That's right.
Oh, absolutely. I really think the world of your art, and I think the world of both of you. So thank you for being guests on Accent on Art.
Thank you. It's our pleasure.
You've been watching Accent on Art. I'm Chris Madison, and thank you for being with us today. It's been a joy and a pleasure for me too. Bye-bye.